Hey folks, how you doing? Glad to be back with you. I thought I would talk about manifesto of eternity and time. We live in a world of time. Once in a while we get a taste of eternity. Like when we're in deep sleep, you go to sleep, you wake up, wow, the time has went by so fast. Well, you had in that sleep went beyond the earth of time. It went beyond time. And if you go beyond time, there's only one place for you to go. That's eternity. Okay. And this is why the time appeared to go by so fast. In that sleep, you went into a deep sleep. No dreams, no nothing, nothing you can recall. We say that's a taste of eternity, but you can't remember anything about it. Okay. But there are many people who strive for an experience away from the earth of time, an experience relative to eternity. But they do all sorts of exercises, and they take all sorts of herbs or medications or whatever to get away from time, you see. And I imagine they want a good rest, because when you get away from time, you also get away from the activity of the cerebral cortex. You get away from your thinking, you see, because the thinking process, the cerebral cortex and so forth, is shut down. You enter into the world of no things, that is, no thinking, you see. Now, people do this, they practice and they take instructions, etc., in order to reach such a state of mind. How successful they are, I don't know. But we can like imagine that as the thinking process leaves, okay, whether you're in a state of trance or whatever, okay, the thinking goes, knowledge comes in. If something is removed, then something's going to take its place. So if we shut down the thinking, then knowledge will take its place. But this is knowledge of self. Knowledge of what we are takes its place. You see, our thinking sort of interferes with this, and thinking goes along with here the earth of time. We are slaves to time, and we are slaves to our thinking process. It seems to go on all the time during our waking hours, and so does time. We are conscious of time. But some people just said slip away or somehow escape the realm of time. Now, we know that from ancient history, we know that the pharaohs were referred to as gods, you know. Translated, we say gods, but the word was more or less like netter, okay, which has to do with energy and primordial matter, etc. So the pharaohs, referred to as gods. This tells us that they had entered the state of eternity, well, from time to time, because they certainly have to come back here and live and run the country and all that sort of stuff. So they could, okay, maybe at will, enter into a state of eternity. And so from this, they will be maybe considered as gods. Not as God as we have been taught, God up there in the sky, sitting on a throne making judgments and so forth and so on about us folks here on earth. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a person who has entered into himself, into his eternity. You know, like the eternity, the darkness from which our imagery proceeds, the darkness from which our imagery comes forth. They say this is the primeval matter, which is eternity, eternal matter. Okay? So we all have it in us. It's just a matter of realizing it. It's just a matter of experiencing eternity. You see? Now, there was a story, a tale, about a place up on a mountain. And it was called Shangri-La, something like that. Well, some explorers were traveling and they went to certain villages, somewhere in Asia, I presume. And villagers told them about this place where people didn't grow old, a place where there was no time. And so the explorers, being explorers, wanted to explore this region. They wanted to go there and see what was going on. Was it really true? And so they did. They went and they climbed up this mountain. They reached the mountaintop. And so they walked around. They saw these people, everybody going about their business. Lovely, everything was nice. And they saw these women, beautiful women. My goodness. One of the explorers fell in love with one of the women. And he wanted to bring her back to Earth time. He wanted to climb back down the mountain with her. She said no. And she was warned not by her folks there on top of the mountain not to go back with him. But he talked her into it. And she went back down the mountain with him. She held on to his back as they climbed down the mountain. You see. And after they got down the mountain, well, a certain distance, I guess they got back into Earth time. And he turned around to look at her, and he saw his woman who was 5,000 years old. In other words, she had been on the mountain for 5,000 years. So when she came back to Earth time, she goes back, her physiology, etc., goes back to how she would have been if she had been on Earth for 5,000 years. Well, she was no longer beautiful, to put it mildly. It scared him. He threw her off his back, and she perished and disintegrated, etc. And I don't know what happened to him, whether he fell down the rest of the way, or whether he got down safely. And if he did, I guess he said he would never go back. Well, anyway, this tells us that eternity, if we lived in eternity, we would never grow old. Because there's no time in eternity. We are tied to earth and time. And as I said, some people try, they might experience some success, to experience eternity for a short period of time, of course. They say the longest might be 3 days. That's a long time, but okay. 3 days away from Earth, yet you're here. So we're talking about the manifester of eternity in time. Okay? So if we experience eternity, an individual experiences eternity here on earth, he is surrounded by time. Because we are living in the earth of time. But if he's able to manipulate his physiology to such an extent that he does not experience time any longer, then he will experience eternity. The same as we do like when we go into a state of trance or a very deep sleep. You know what I mean? We no longer experience time, we experience eternity until we wake up, a few hours later or so, you see. So this is an experience of eternity. Our imagery proceeds from a state of eternity, you see. And so when they say, well, when the human creates the gods within him, they are created out of this matter, this primeval matter, which they call Pa'ut. So the Pa'ut is the stuff of which the gods are made. And this stuff is primeval matter. But we're creating, or the gods are created within the human being. We're not creating gods out here walking around. They're created within us, and they're created out of that energy. And so our imagery is also created out of that energy. And therefore, the gods themselves that we create within ourselves, the Nutter, they are created out of this energy also. Okay. So we can change the form at will, as we can change the form of our imagery. And we can make it lighter, we can make it darker, we can make it blue, green, whatever color we wish. And we could change the form. We could change the God into lion form, the form of a duck, form of a serpent, through our imagery. And identify with this imagery for a period of time, a short period of time, where the person comes forth and says that I am the lion. I am the lion God, etc. It's his creation out of his imagery, which comes forth from the stuff of eternity. Okay, folks, thank you, and subscribe, and get with me again. I have a lot more to talk about, and thank you, and have a good day.